June 18th.
June 18th, my apologies, for June 18th, 2020. Thank you. We're going to go on next to information item COVID operations written report, item 4A. And to begin, is there a staff presentation?
There is, and if you give me just 1 second, I can. Or June 18th.
We'll have you provide the presentation, and then subsequently we'll take public comments on this item.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Dr. Vaughn. Sorry about that.
I'm sorry, did you say you do have a presentation for this item?
I do, and as technology does, it's slowing down on me. Give me 1 second. Let me pull up that item.
As this item is being pulled up for presentation and shared on the screen, I would like to ask a question of Assistant Superintendent Olmos or potentially Assistant Principal Everett. Could you describe the technology that our Opportunity Youth Academy students have and what they were presented with during the shelter in place time?
Sure. Dr. Everett can talk to the specifics, but to what we've done also the last couple of months, we've actually been working with our technology department, and we've put in an order for Chromebooks and for hotspots for the fall as well. And so we'll be ready for the fall regardless of to operate or have instruction. But Dr. Everett can also be more specific on what we've done over the last 3 months.
Thank you. Dr. Everett?
Yes, thank you for giving me the opportunity to report out on the technology. We've had a number of distributions. We started these distributions back in, I believe it was March, April timeframe, and we've given out 150 Chromebooks, and we do have 24 Dell laptops out. We have 88 Khajiit hotspots out as well. Students who are going our new online orientation are also, that's one of our first questions we ask them, is if they're prepared with technology, if they have reliable internet. And so we meet the need for those students as well prior to them coming to the orientation. So and the students know this now, and so they're actually they're contacting the navigators or their teachers when they have issues with their technology, which might have previously been working, but if they have an issue, then we have computers and hotspots for them at this time.
Great, thank you. So do you have a sense of how many of our students were able to continue their education during shelter in place?
So the initial number that we had was right around 80 students that were unable to access either through a computer or internet, but they didn't have access. And so there was right around 80 initially. And as time, as we continued with shelter in place, I think students either started having trouble with the technology that they had had previously, or they realized that, oh, this is going to take longer than they had thought. And so they started reaching out to have either their technology that was inoperative, we supplemented that for them, or they just needed technology that they didn't think they would need initially, but they ended up needing. So it was 80, I believe, at the very beginning. I think it was right around 79, 80. But that grew to, at this point, 150 students with the computers. Some of the students that needed Khajiit hotspots did not need a computer. They had a computer, but their internet was intermittent, and they weren't able to attend the Zoom meetings with their teachers or have enough time to do the work. And so right now, combined, the 150 computers are probably combined with, I can look this number up and get a more solid number, but there's about a combination of 50 of those students have Kajeet and laptop.
Okay, thank you. Principal Morales, or Director Morales, are you ready with the presentation for this item?
I am, yes.
Okay,
Thank you for
thank
being
you.
patient. I do appreciate
course.
that.
We all have to be flexible during these times.
Yeah, and as you can tell, I'm getting a lot of team messages that are popping up on my screen. So I apologize. I have to figure out how to mute that. But so here is our written operations report that we are required to submit, or at least present. It does have 4 questions, and it's been available to the public. It's on our the board docs. So folks that want to go into the read the details of it, they certainly are welcome to do that. But the first question is just wanting to explain the changes that our program had to make, given that we had to go into shelter in place. And interesting for OYA, it wasn't too much of a change, simply because a lot of our students are so used to being online and doing their work online. I think it was a little more work for us as a staff to find ways to remain connected with our students, because that is one of the big things that is kind of a highlight of OYA, is the relationships and the connectedness that our teachers have with our students. So one of the things that we started to really think about was, as Dr. Everett talked about, was we needed to understand the need of our students. How do we continue to make connections with them virtually? And so we had to figure out how many students needed laptops and hotspots so that we can make sure that we were staying available to our students. So that was the first thing that we did. We didn't really think about or worry about getting students online and getting coursework done. We just wanted to make sure that our students were getting used to this kind of new virtual way of connecting with our teachers, and us getting used to connecting with them virtually as well. So that, I think, was the biggest change for us. Again, the curriculum was online, and so our students didn't have too much issues with that. Our English learners, our foster youth, our low-income students, certainly more specifically our English learners, that was a little more challenging. We do use Eloquence as our supplemental curriculum, and they have access to SciTech, some of the courses in SciTech. But again, I think for our EL students and our foster youth, it's really having that support from our teachers, which they do get very much of that in the classroom, but being online, it was a little harder. So making sure that we were reaching out to our English learners, making sure that that they were getting those daily check-ins, finding out what did they need, if it was mental health, connecting with our mental health therapists, connecting with our navigators, making sure that our counselor was connecting with them as well, and just making sure that they were getting the supports they needed so that they can access the curriculum both through SciTech and Eloquence. How did we deliver our online curriculum or high quality distance learning opportunities? Well, we broke it down into really 3 phases. Our phase 1 was, again, finding out the needs of our students, setting up a plan that we would connect with them more online, or at least checking in with them one-on-one. As we got into more of a phase 2, we started to set up specific times, kind of blocking out times where teachers were doing some professional development on their own, understanding how they can learn a little bit more about using Zoom and Google Classroom and some of those other platforms that we just didn't necessarily use when we were on site. So giving teachers an opportunity to do some professional development, keeping our cohort times or times during the day where they're doing some check-ins with students, making sure that they're accessing this SciTech curriculum, and then also having some work hours where they are looking at or working with families or working with each other, doing some collaboration. And then a phase 3 is really more focused on our virtual academy. This is where we start to now do kind of cohort learning on within the weekly schedule. So getting students together, doing some small group instruction while maintaining the one-on-one check-ins with students, but really trying to set up that blended learning environment virtually though, and not having just the cohorts that are coming in the site. And so we're hoping that as we move forward, we can continue with the phase 3. Because what we're finding is a lot of our students are really enjoying the distance learning, and it really it really helps them in their schedule, because a lot of our students are realizing they have to work, they have families. So our phase 3 model, our Voya model, is becoming pretty popular. Our school meals, what we did with our students and families was made sure that we provided them the information, getting to the Santa Clara County Office of Education website, finding places that they could go and get meals. I know that Mary Bravo from Conexión sent out a lot of information to students and families about some of the family distribution opportunities that Conexión was providing. So what we try to do is just make sure that we were getting information out to our families, where they can go pick up food, and if they were having issues with that, how could we help support them? And then arranging for supervision of students. Again, making sure that we're providing information to our students about childcare, what was open, what will be becoming available to them, and then how can we help support them in making those connections. So this is our written report. This is what we've been kind of working on and what we will continue to work on over the next few months and into next year.
So when is the last day of school for Opportunity Youth Academy?
June 30th.
And then how many weeks is summer break?
2 weeks and 4 days. So two and a half weeks. We come back.
And so the start of the next school year is July
20th. We start professional development July 16th and 17th. The SCAP comes back on the 16th and 17th, and then we start school July 20th.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I believe there was a public comment for this item. I'd like to hear the comment now.
So item number 4A, LCAP under COVID-19, would you be able to speak to the number and percentage of students and maybe ADA who seem to be able to participate in OYA and continue to make progress? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm also interested in that. So I'm wondering what is the general assessment of how we were able, how many of our students or what % of our students were we able to keep engaged during this time? And what's our sense of students, % of students who might still be making progress? And that I'd also just be curious to know, now that we've been doing this for a while, the level of support that teachers and staff are figuring out that they can provide to try to get connected or reconnected to some of our students who maybe did separate from us during this time. So just a brief highlight on those 3 items would be helpful.
Right. So initially, when we did do shelter in place, our enrollment and our attendance did well, not our enrollment, but our attendance did drop, and that made sense because of the times and just not really sure what we were going to do. But over the last 4 or 5 weeks or how long we've been out, our reconnecting with students is now at 252 students re-engaged, and that's all. We're also enrolling more students, so our enrollment now is 398. So it's growing. I think the big turn for us in terms of reconnecting our students was technology. When we sent out, Dr. Everett had sent out a survey to our students within a week or two of when we went into shelter in place and said, hey, and the teachers did remind, and we did emails and got on the phone and said, we've got technology. If you need it, let us know, and we will start setting up distribution times, making sure that we were available to them every week. I know Dr. Everett's done a fantastic job, I think, doing a distribution every week. And students started to come. And one of the things we did say was mobile devices and communal laptops and desktops at your home don't count. So we wanted to be sure that our students had a laptop specifically for them, even if they had one at home, because we understood that a lot of times the families have to use that one device. And a lot of our students thought, well, we're going to use our mobile phone. Well, that doesn't work. So once we started to give them the laptops, I think we saw those numbers really change. Teachers every week were calling students, making those connections. We're still here. What do you need? And students just kind of came back and have been doing very well, completing assignments, re-engaging, engagement with students. So I think that has helped us keep the level of engagement that we have. And what was the other questions? Did that?
Yes, just do you think that students are making progress? So they're re-engaged, but are they making progress? And then lastly, for those who we weren't successful or aren't making much progress, what could we do to support them?
So I believe they are making progress. And the only way we know that is a number of ways. Is one of the teachers are certainly reporting that our students are making progress. If we're looking through SciATech and looking at what's being submitted, and I'm actually get notifications of when a student submits an assignment, it's constant. So students are definitely doing the work, making progress, and making the connections with teachers. And the students that we weren't able to reconnect, we just recently sent out a letter to those students, mainly our adult students, not our minors or our students with special needs, students with special education, but our adult students sent out a letter and said, we're still here, what's going on? We need to hear back from you. And interesting, we started to hear students reconnect with our teachers. And some of the reasons why they wouldn't, or they couldn't reconnect was because a lot of it was employment. They were waiting for unemployment. They just weren't at a place that they could continue in OIA. Some students believed that the requirements of 20 hours of work a week was still there, was still part of the requirement. So we tried to clarify some of that information to them, and they re-engaged. And so I think we sent out 30, 40 letters, and 15 of those students returned and were able to re-engage. So a lot of it is just getting information out to our students, letting them know we're still here, that we're still to support. But we monitor that every week and kind of get a sense of how many more students do we need to notify.
Thank you. You also mentioned earlier that you were able to really leverage the virtual option and you're seeing some success there. I'm curious if we are delivering any of our mental health services or counseling services virtually as well.
Actually, at this point, all of it is. I know that Cindy Curry, who's our mental health counselor, is doing Zoom check-ins with the students, along with our college and career liaison Zoom meetings, and our counselor as well. Our guidance counselor is all Zoom. So they've been able to set up certain times, block out times during the week, telling teachers, hey, this is my time for students to check in. But also with our mental health counselor, she's also providing opportunities for teachers to check in during the week and talk a little bit about what they're going through. So she's there for students, but she's also made herself available to the teachers, which has been really, really nice.
Great, thank you. And then as I understand it, you'll bring this item back to our June 18th meeting for me to adopt this written report. Great, thank you. Any other comments that you'd like to make, Director Morales?
Not at this time.
All right, I'm going to move on to our next agenda item, which is for consent action, the minutes of the March 5th meeting. And I will take action, I'll move and act to approve the minutes of our meeting. And that brings us to the close of our agenda. I want to announce that our next meeting is June the 18th. And we will be meeting again virtually. And this meeting is now adjourned. I wish everyone a good evening.
Thank you, Dr. Dewan.
Be well, thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone.